All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last session of the 2023 Strategy and Planning Series. We're wrapping things up with Get Proactive with Lead Nurturing, How to Boost Efforts with Intent Data. My name is Kelly Lindenau, and I'm Demand Gen Reports Editor, and I'll also be your moderator today. Now, I am pleased to introduce our featured speakers for today, Suzy Balk and Dom Catabay. As a Senior Marketing Campaigns Manager at Acton, Suzy is your go-to guru when it comes to marketing, covering everything from demand generation, marketing automation, and the art of ABM. She thrives on embracing the buzz of ever-changing marketing trends, ensuring her campaigns stay on the cutting edge and in tune with today's ever-evolving digital landscape. And then as the Director of Demand Generation at Acton, Dom is most excited about using data to drive high-growth marketing programs through the entire funnel, awareness to revenue, across a healthy mix of inbound and outbound channels. But outside work, you can find him at the gym lifting weights and playing basketball, hitting the slopes of Mount Hood, or spending time with family and friends. He's passionate about driving revenue growth, health and fitness, traveling the world, video games, and tech. So it is clear that we are in great hands today. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to Dom to kick us off.
Thank you. So real quick, our agenda for today, we're going to start off with discussing the intent signals that you have access to and metrics that you should be looking at when you're building out and thinking through your lead nurturing strategy, how to use intent data to identify your next target for nurture programs, personalizing your messaging based on data, and utilizing marketing automation to engage your prospects and customers at each step of the way. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Suzy to take us through intent.
I think it's really important that we all start off on the same page at the beginning of this presentation. And so I've gone ahead and included the definition of intent that we'll be using throughout our discussion. And whether you're in the weeds with intent data or you're just getting started, you know that intent data is the key to understanding your prospect's level of interest in a specific product or online service. But why do we need to understand this intent? It's not just about blasting prospects with generic content based on a handful of keywords. It's about crafting strategies that'll align with their intentions, addressing their specific needs, and building a connection that feels genuine and almost intuitive. So today we'll explore how intent data has changed lead nurturing and empowers you to be proactive in identifying potential customers and equips you to engage at each step of the journey. So our goal here is to help you harness the power of intent data and your lead nurturing efforts.
Thanks, Suzy. And to kick us off, Suzy will continue by discussing the signals and metrics that you should care about.
So yeah, we're going to get started defining intent signals. And what are these signals? Think of them like breadcrumbs left behind by your online audience. These signals are kind of like the digital footprints, the clues, the hints your prospects are dropping as they do their research. And it's our job to pick up on them. So they can encompass a lot of actions, website visits, page views, content downloads, email opens, click-through rates. These are all signals of intent, and we're familiar with all of them. So every online action holds valuable information about what your audience is interested in and where they are in their buyer's journey. And we know that the earlier you get to them in that journey, the more likely you are to make that sale. So that's why identifying the specific intent signals matter the most to your business is really important, and it is the key to a successful intent data strategy.
Thanks. And I want to take a step back and differentiate too. Traditionally, when you think about intent data, a lot of people are thinking of, the web searches that people are doing on the web, across the web on specific topics. And that's kind of what intent has been positioned as in its current state. But it goes back further than that. We've all been using intent data, and it's separated into first party and third party. So as Suzy mentioned, your first party intent data is the stuff that you're capturing with your own content. Clicks on emails, opening emails, downloading content, filling out forms. These are all first party examples of intent data that you should be monitoring and scoring against in order to effectively identify that there's some intent or purchase behavior behind what your target audience is working through. And these are typically things that are captured through your marketing automation solution, as well as a bunch of other MarTech out there that can kind of track what's going on with your website. The important piece of the first party is not every piece of intent that's happening is going to have the same value. Someone opening an email means significantly less than downloading a piece of content or filling out a demo request form. So making sure that your scoring strategy is developed in a way where you're giving the most value to those that are actually showing some sort of purchase behavior is going to be instrumental in developing proper lead nurturing cadence and strategy. The second piece is the third-party data. So this is stuff that's kind of newer and popped up more over the last, over the last 10 years. So these are things like keyword research that your prospects are doing across the web. If you're selling insurance solutions and you see that this company or these individuals are spending a lot of time researching their new benefits packages or looking at 401k offerings, like those may be high value intent keywords for you to be monitoring and building your programs on. So the important piece with that third-party information is it's not indicative of purchase behavior if it's a single topic. You think of, we sell marketing automation software. If someone's doing research on email marketing, I do research on email marketing all the time. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm interested in purchasing anything related to it. So you need to build out those layers of what's actually important and having a coupling of multiple pieces of intent data to really get that value.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the next part of that is taking that first party data and third party data and then moving into lead based versus account based intent signals. So, we're marketers, we love to segment. This is the next level. So lead-based intent signals are going to be it's like you're looking through a microscope or a magnifying glass at your prospects' individual activities. And these signals revolve around the actions and interactions of specific leads in your database. They give you insights into the interest and the intent of those potential customers. For example, lead-based intent signals can include like clicking on a specific product page, downloading targeted resources, or engaging with your content in a way that signifies deep interest. Dom just said, if you sell marketing automation like we do, researching about email marketing, that's in our daily activity, probably not going to be an intent signal, but it's up to you and your marketing team to kind of dig deeper and discover, what does signify real intent. Because they're really specific and personal, and focusing on those unique behaviors of individual leads is going to give you that lead-based intent signals that you can build from. And then, of course, now we have account-based intent signals, and you can track this in your marketing automation or your ABM platform, and it definitely gives you a broader perspective. So you're looking at like a collective action of all the leads within the particular company and account. And these provide intent signals and intentions of an entire buying group rather than just one individual. And these signals are really super important because they enable us to understand the buying behavior of an entire buying committee. And they also allow us to create strategies that resonate with the buying group, regardless if we know the specific action. So here, for example, if we have a prospect that repeatedly comes to our blogs about sales and marketing alignment, we can speculate this is a pain point in their organization and serve them additional content on this topic with ads, webinar invites, and case studies. So immediately, we can group that account and those contacts within that account, regardless of what we know about them, and serve them that information to see if that's something that really is a pain point and something that we can offer to solve through those intuitive intent signals. And then if you just want to maximize the potential of intent data, it's really important to understand, both lead and account-based signals in your marketing campaigns. And again, you're just addressing those individual needs, but also engaging the entire buying committee and paving the way for more successful lead nurturing efforts.
Thank you, Suzy. And I want to double down on the importance of building out the entire buying committee. I think a lot of times you'll see in the closed lost opportunities of some of your sales team is that they didn't get the right person on the phone, they didn't get the right person involved in the conversation. And really building out that buying committee starts with marketing. So as much as you can do to support your sales team in that effort, the more impactful your programs are going to be, as well as the more the thanks and congrats you'll get on the back of the wins of the sales team. Next, we're going to dive into nurturing and how to use intent data to identify your next target for your nurture programs. So there's really a 4-step process to kind of building out your targets, and it all starts with defining what you need to see. It's instrumental in developing your strategy to start with a clear definition, because if you don't, you're going to get through a lot of the work and come back and realize you didn't even solve the problem that you were trying to solve. So in order to do this well, you need to first define the programs that you're going to be targeting with your intent data, and then next do some analysis to identify what a good looking account is for you. And there's always going to be some amounts of ICP that's going to be layered into this. So you might sell to specific industries, specific locations, specific titles. That's always going to be a component. But the big analysis really comes at analyzing your existing open opportunities, especially looking at the closed won ones, to understand what behaviors prior to those opportunities being opened are actually indicative of purchase behavior. So typically I'd recommend looking 6 months, maybe a year back. It really depends on your sales cycles and the speed to which your product and your ICP is developing and changing within your market. And looking at not just what drove the opportunity itself, there might be a single MQL or a single engagement, but looking at the intent that happened prior to those engagements. So if they're doing research on specific topics that are related to your solution, if their MQLs that are in the account on this opportunity are coming from specific types of content, and kind of doing a holistic view of what's already in your pipeline and what drove that pipeline. That way you have some baseline, and you can always come back and optimize and continue to do a look back. This is important that this isn't a one take, you start and you're done kind of thing. Like, you're always going to be going back and optimizing. And then when you layer that in with your ICP information, as well as the different, like if there's multiple types of intent signals, kind of putting those pieces together, that's when you get a really powerful tool and process for identifying your next target for nurture campaigns.
And then the last step, and my favorite as a campaign manager, is really getting creative. Uncovering and using intent signals has allowed me to become so much more creative with my campaigns, because prospects are engaging with our content all the time, but they're not always responding to the next piece of communication or MQLing in the way that we expect or even want them to. So instead of seeing this as a roadblock, I ask myself, what might be the underlying issue? What's causing this hesitation or frustration? And tapping into those unspoken frustrations from your prospect, asking myself, what are those pain points and what obstacles they're encountering? This is where intent data comes into play. And I can offer solutions that directly speak to their needs. So for example, something, our team is working on now is, we have a lot of hand raisers that MQL with our kind of traditional lead score. They come into from zero, and a variety of actions will take them to 50, and they MQL and they get sent to our BDR team. But now, we're looking at those MQLs that, we consider have taken the correct course of actions to be ready to talk to sales. But if our sales team can't get in touch with them after we've, kind of made those distinctions, how can we engage them again? How can we look at those intent signals that they were sending, as they went down the traditional nurture stream, as they got 5, 10, 50 points from our lead score? And how can we bring them back to, some more content and some more resources that align with their needs, and maybe, warm them back up for sales, or, just kind of accelerate them on a faster timeline, instead of just saying, oh, we'll follow up in 3 months, or, we're going to just send them back to marketing to be sent the newsletter every month. So having these, these ICPs defined and knowing when to layer intent is like really when you can just get creative, find the niche audience within who you're already marketing to, and really just make the most of the opportunities you've already created.
Thank you, Suzy. And I think the getting creative really takes us to our next topic, which is personalizing your messaging based on the data that you now have collected. So to start us off, I am a fan of always defining starting points, as you saw from the last slide. When you look at traditional personalization, I think the role-based and seniority-based personalization from a title and where you sit in the org basis is a common starting point. But at this point, it's kind of become table stakes. I mean, how often do you get messages saying, as the director of demand generation at so-and-so company, I'm sure you're feeling these pain points. It's tried and true to a degree, but you need to take that extra step in order to really be effective in your messaging. And I think Suzy kind of alluded to this in a piece of, if we know what type of content, what intent signals are present prior to them entering our nurture streams, that can inform your messaging as you market to them, as well as inform the messaging that your sales team should be using in order to have effective communications with them. So one thing that we've done as of recent is we are basically defining all of our content from a topic perspective in order to enter them into different nurture streams based on their initial conversion point. So if they fill out a form on a piece of content that's related to email marketing, the first few portions of our nurture program is going to be focused on that email marketing topic. And the same could be said about if they're interested in lead nurturing or lead scoring. We have different entry points to our nurture program, and they all do kind of consolidate because for the most part, like, an entry point is just that. It's an entry point. You want to really build out that interest to show them that there's more to offer than this initial piece, especially if they're in their discovery phase or their research phase and they're trying to really validate their problem and understand the scope of it. So taking that entry point and building your nurture program built based on that is what's really going to drive effective communication and get that engagement up. I think the other things that you can look at to find that personalization is taking a step back and saying, okay, if your product works in a certain way with specific industries, your messaging for those specific industries should acknowledge that. Same thing with location, different regions, especially in a marketing communication type tool like ours. If you're based in the EU, like, GDPR is a huge component of your marketing strategy. So being able to talk about that and discuss that openly it just shows that you did your research and you know what you're talking about. And then the other piece is definitely size of company. If you sell to SMB and enterprise, I'm sure any seller, any marketer knows that the way an SMB organization uses most of their solutions can look completely different to the way an enterprise does. So that should be shown in your messaging as much as possible. Again, this requires a lot of data, but using the data you do have handy to determine which path they go down is what is going to make your campaigns significantly more effective and help with the personalization as you are engaging with people and they've been identified.
Yeah, for sure. And then, part of doing personalization is making sure that you're extending that message, not just from marketing, but also to sales. And doing that starts with educating your sales development reps or your business development reps on what intent is and how you're using it and why you're using it. But then also, like, how they're getting from marketing to sales and why. So you really just want to educate your sales team, your SDRs or your BDRs, to align their outreach with the specific needs and interests revealed by these intent signals. So when a prospect is showing intent in a particular area, whether it's content or website visits, you really want to make sure your SDRs have the tools to approach and address these areas of interest once they move into their hands. This kind of, it just builds relevance and credibility. But, at the same time, you want to be aware that it's more than just like inserting a prospect's name in an email. Everyone's doing that. It's about crafting a seamless and, again, intuitive experience. And then, just overall understanding the prospect's pain points and providing tailored solutions. And also, on the other part of that, I would just be remiss if I didn't, call out also having to teach them to be, kind of finesse this into their messaging. And, don't say, you visit our website on ABC day and, we can see that. That's creepy. And we don't want to be creepy because all of this data, not everyone is used to it. And what we can find out from what they're doing online, so there's definitely like a finesse to it. And you want to make sure that that carries all the way through. And then, back to marketing and even to sales, you want to make sure that, like, when you're doing personalization, you don't just start and stop at email. Because while we love email and it's an important communication tool, there's so many ways to include personalization and intent signals. So you can do, your ad audience and your campaign strategy. So you can customize copy and creative to the prospect's demonstrated interests, and definitely just drive more and better engagement on those ads. If you use chatbots, you can personalize everything from the name to the account information and tailor the conversation to the web page that they're visiting at the time. And just taking these principles, both for yourself and for your sales team, and then extending them beyond email, you're not just connecting with prospects, you're delivering an unforgettable and tailor-made experience, which is just everyone's goal at this point of time.
Exactly. And if you took nothing else from what we just shared on personalization, don't be creepy. I think that's number one. We all know the data is out there, but you got to toe the line and find that balance of personalizing, using the data you have, but not getting too intricate with it. And I think this takes us to our last item on the agenda for today, which is utilizing marketing automation to engage at each step of the way. I think, Suzy, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so just like email, I know a lot of us find that marketing automation is also the backbone of our campaign strategy. So this is where intent-based everything can come into play, and hopefully whatever you're using supports building out intent-based workflows. And specifically, I'm doing this right now is, these workflows are designed to capture and respond to the actions and interests of your prospects. And they really just initiate that right action at the right time based on your prospects' demonstrated intent signals. So when they are showing that high intent, the workflow that you build can automatically trigger actions like sending a personalized follow-up, assigning a sales rep to reach out, or bringing them into that nurture sequence that this is all about. And another thing we can be doing with intent-based everything is intent-based lead scoring. So this is just a game changer in understanding like the potential value of both individual leads and accounts. So for accounts, your intent-based scoring is going to consider, again, that buying group, the collective intent, and it just helps us gauge the overall interest. And even if these individual leads remain anonymous, the scoring approach is crucial for identifying high potential accounts. And then taking it a step back at that individual level, we have lead-based intent scoring. So just kind of peppering in those intent signals with your traditional score sheet, or even building out another one to work alongside it. And it's just more personalized and allows us to differentiate between leads within a different account at the same time. And again, just really building out that buying group and what their pain points are. And so the last thing here with intent-based everything is intent-based journey stages. So traditionally, we've always had this definition of MQLs or SQLs. And with intent data, we can go beyond these kind of conventions. So customized journey stages can help us engage prospects, and they allow us to adapt our strategies to match the unique paths. So definitely want to be looking at, like from discovery to research, it's not just, one action, it's a collection of actions. And when you build out those, you create like really unique journey stages specific to what you're trying to, sell and move them down that journey stage. And so, normally, in my work, they would have to submit their email and wait for their lead score to hit a certain threshold. But now, if we have a prospect that's looking at a demo page and a pricing page, you can really consider those intent signals as high intent and move them down the funnel at a much faster pace. And even bring in, again, that buying group from within that account, looking at, if that person showing that intent is going to be, part of the purchasing group, or maybe you need to bring other people into that conversation. So, it's going to take some time to balance out, your custom journey stages and your intent-based lead scoring, but in the long run, it's well worth the time and effort.
Great. And I think that takes us to our next piece. Suzy spoke about a little bit of building out the buying committee. I think when you look at a lot of traditional marketing and sales organizations, the handoff occurs at the MQL stage, and then it's kind of left to the devices of sales to continue and to convert and really bring the MQL to opportunity and to close one revenue. I think that's a mistake. When you look at at a really well-aligned sales and marketing team, the marketing team is supporting all the way through close one. So what that looks like too is if an opportunity is opened or a single MQL is generated, I think that is a very highly indicative intent signal to say, like, this company has some potential to become a new customer of yours. So the things that you can do with marketing automation to really take advantage of that is when opportunities are opened, using that as a signal to launch open opportunity messaged content to the other members of the buying committee in order to help bring them into that sales conversation early. If you look at an opportunity in most sales processes, all it really requires is one person. But when you look at the average amount of people or members on a buying committee when it comes to purchasing solutions, especially if they're a pretty high cost solution, you can see anywhere from 5, 6, 7, maybe more, depending on the size of org, but you see a lot more people than just the one. So our job as marketers is to not just present these opportunities to sales, but help them bring those additional buyers into the conversation early. That way it increases their chance of winning the conversation if they're viewing other vendors, as well as accelerate it from open to close by really helping not just bringing the buyers in, but making the person who's already engaged realize that they need these people early as well. And then looking beyond close one, and if we have any customer marketers on, you'll love this. I think marketing automation and intent signals in general are super valuable even post close one. So if you look at your customer base, from a first party perspective, if you don't have customer nurture programs going on, definitely recommend it. They're really compelling. I love getting messages from our vendors, especially when they have new products and when they're trying to help me use our tools better. But using their engagement with the content that you are putting in front of them to kind of define the paths that they might be most interested in. For example, we recently had an analytics product launch, and as part of that, like we promote the analytics piece, and those who are engaging the most heavily are the ones who are getting more consistent and more analytics focused content. So whenever you have product launches, whenever you are expanding into a new region, using your customers' engagement, using tools like Pendo or other, if you're using a software solution, using your tools that you're using, like monitoring your usage with, to kind of define the paths they go down, is going to, one, help engagement with your product improve, as well as kind of surface conversations for your CSM team or your account management team to have these conversations with their customers, and it will help with retention as well as kind of identify opportunity for upsells if that's how you want to use it. And the other piece there is using third-party intent data to identify churn risk. So this one's definitely less marketing automation related, but if you have your intent data set up in a way where both prospects and customer data is making its way to your sales team, they're going to love you if they're looking at if a customer that they really like or they're not hearing from, or they're seeing engagement with your product or services drop, if they're seeing intent related to your competitors show up for these accounts, like that is a huge opportunity for them to reach out preemptively and kind of alleviate any stress or concern that they might be having and try to address that before it comes to, hey, we're not renewing, we're going with so-and-so. So again, nurturing, market automation 10, all of it should funnel through the entire process of sales all the way through close one and through retention. And I think that takes us to the end of our prepared notes for today. So thank you from myself. And yeah, I think we can kick it back to Kelly to address any Q&A we got during the session.
Yes, absolutely. That was such a great presentation, and thank you guys so much for that. We definitely had some great questions come in, and I'll get to those in a minute. But first, I would just like to remind everyone one final time to please take the survey before signing off today. You can fill it out now, or you could just wait for it to launch once we wrap things up here. So with that, it is question time. And the first one that I grabbed is, how can I know if intent targeting is working?
So I'll go ahead and speak to this, or Dom, feel free to jump in. But this is something you've asked me to prove out before, so I feel a unique, tie to it. So how do you know if it's working? You have done all this work. You looked at your analytics. You defined your audience. You layered your data. What's going to be one really key point, and it's going to be your lead to MQL velocity. And you're going to be looking for that to increase So definitely you're going to have to, sit down and do some Salesforce reports or look at Tableau. But basically what you're looking for is that by the time like a prospect becomes a lead or you identify an account in that early journey stage, and then where it becomes or how long it takes it to become an MQL, you want to see that time shorten over time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's a huge one. I would say the one other piece I would probably look at is your conversion rate of those MQLs after they've been passed to sales. I think naturally, if you're targeting people with intent present, they're going to be more receptive to sales once they're reached out to, and hopefully there's actually some projects or pain points that they're feeling that are going to be relevant enough for an opportunity to be created. So yeah, velocity from lead to MQL and conversion on those MQLs are the two I would look at.
Awesome. And then the next question that I have up for you two is, how do I get buy-in from my sales team to get them to use intent signals when selecting accounts to target?
Yeah, I'll take this one again, Dov, just because, I've faced this recently as well. But basically, you just want to communicate that intent signals help to reduce the ambiguity between like the marketing and sales handoff. So you'll basically tell them like you're continuing the conversation instead of starting from scratch. And it's really that idea of continuing the conversation that's, going to, one, increase those conversion rates because you don't want it to be like a stop-start process. You really want it to flow naturally. So if those conversations really just continue and they just pick up where marketing left off, they're going to see, an increase in conversions and hopefully, won deals as well. So, hopefully just dangling that in front of them will really convince them. But if not, just, take it back to what we talked about with, explaining intent and personalization, and hopefully you'll get buy-in, as it proves itself.
All right, perfect. And then we are coming up on time, but I want to grab one more question before we sign off today. So the final question I'm going to grab is, what stage should I start targeting first in order to drive the largest or most immediate impact?
I think I can take this one. I mean, the short answer is probably not what you're hoping to hear, but it really takes you doing your own research into the parts of your buying cycle that are struggling the most and picking from that. I think generally speaking, like if you're having issues identifying the right accounts to begin engagement, which I know a lot of organizations are, I would build programs around early signs of intent to improve awareness during the research phase. So that's that whole piece of identifying the keywords that are indicative of early purchase behavior so that you can pull them into your nurture programs early. If you're suffering from poor conversion rates as they've already entered the funnel, that's an opportunity to kind of look at what I mentioned before, which is looking at the intent behind your existing opportunities or some of the more recently closed ones to understand what intent signals are present on the opportunities that you are converting either into ops or to close one, and adjusting your scoring to kind of score up for those. And then the other piece you could look at if you don't have enough data and just the opportunities is looking at the MQLs that aren't converting to see maybe there's some red flags. You thought like these signals were indicative of purchase, but you're consistently seeing this piece of content or this form fill or this keyword not turning into anything down funnel, and making those adjustments to the way you're scoring for those to kind of either slow down their process of getting to MQL or just not score for it at all. And I'd say the last piece, still just sticking to new business side, is if you're seeing your win rates slumping, and I think we're in a down market this year, so I'm sure a lot of people are struggling with this. I think this is less focused on intent, because if an opportunity is already present, I think there's already some semblance of intent there, just by the fact that an opportunity is open. But we mentioned before the focus on helping building out that buying committee once the opportunity is open. I think that's where I would start with that piece. So again, there's no exact answer for everyone. I think it really depends on where you're seeing things working the best for you and kind of pushing those off to make the improvements later and focusing on the areas that are seeing the lowest performance and starting with programs there.
All right, perfect. Suzy and Dom, thank you both for such a great session today. And a huge thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us today. Thank you all for tuning in today, and an extra special thank you to the folks who stuck around all week with us. Take care, everyone, and I hope you all have a healthy and happy holiday season.